are reversible. This is what the Daily Graphic newspaper is saying today. Autism symptoms are reversible. That's according to a pediatrician. You find it on page 13 of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Also, Africa's largest rooftop solar project has been commissioned in Tema. So you'll find that story on page 26 of the Daily Graphic newspaper. So let me quickly take you to page 26 of the Daily Graphic newspaper so that you know what that story is all about, talking about solar energy. You know, it's a renewable source of energy, and it will be very good if we're able to really invest in renewable sources of energy so that in the long term we don't have to spend so much on energy consumption. So it says that Africa's largest rooftop solar project has been commissioned in Tema. The solar plant produces 16.8 megawatts of electricity, and it's been commissioned at the Tema Free Zones Enclave. And the 17 million US dollar project, which was financed by the international cooperation of the IMF Group, covers an area of 1 million square kilometers. It was mounted on the roof of Mega Warehouse, and it's owned by the Helios Solar Energy, which is a subsidiary of the LMI Holdings. The construction, connection, installation of the entire project was executed by Ghanaian engineers and technicians, so that's good. Just before the commission of the plant, the Minister of State at the Ministry of Energy, Herbert Krapper, said the project was also very important for its socio-economic impact, creation of greener, sustainable jobs for the people, as well as helping the country to meet its nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement. And he said that LMI Holdings was also helping to introduce skills and technology to the young engineers who they trained as part of the development and maintenance of the project, which he indicated would improve the standard of living of many people. So that's what the solar panel is about. Also on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper, decade on remand without trial, 12 gain freedom at last. So this is speaking to the Justice for All program. Yesterday, Murtala Inuta was here in the studio and talked about visiting the Nsawam prisons and speaking to some of these prisoners who have been there without any due process. They've not been put on trial. Nothing of the sort has happened, and they've just been on remand at the prisons, languishing. They've not gone through any trial. They've not gone through any due process, and they are just there, right? And 12 of them gained their freedom. So if you look at what the Daily Graphic is saying, and yesterday also, Murtala Inusa brought you some interviews from the Nsawam prison, speaking to some of these people who benefited from the Justice for All program. But back to the Daily Graphic, it says 12 remand inmates who had been accused of stealing, murder, and having unnatural carnal knowledge, among other offenses, have been discharged from the Nsawam medium security prison in the eastern region after spending long periods, some up to 11 years, on remand without trial. Many of them, who had never stepped outside the walls of the prison since their remand, had spent between 13 months and 11 years with expired remand warrants and had not been taken to court for trial during the period. And their release was as a result of the activation of an intervention which was launched all the way back in the year 2007 to address prison overcrowding by bringing the courts to the doorsteps of remand prisoners. And it's been dubbed the Justice for All program. And we know that this initiative is being spearheaded by the Judicial Service of Ghana. It's facilitated by the POS Foundation, which is a civil society organization with other stakeholders in the justice delivery system, such as the Office of the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, the Ghana Police Service, the Ghana Prison Service, the Legal Aid Commission, and the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. So, at the special court sitting last Wednesday, Justices Kofi Akufu and Lydia Osei-Mafo heard a total of 24 cases, with some of the inmates securing bail and others having their bail conditions varied. So we'll give you just one example, which the Daily Graphic is reporting on. It says that in the case of 15-year-old murder suspect, 51-year-old, I beg your pardon, murder suspect, Nana Kwame Bedu, who had spent 9 years on remand, the court decided to discharge him because the last time he was sent to court was 7 years ago in 2017. And the state prosecutors were not opposed to the motion for the accused to be discharged following a prayer for his release by his counsel, Rita Ali. So all of that is there. And you can get details of all of that from the Daily Graphic newspaper. It's good that there is a program like the Justice for All program. We brought you the story of a juvenile, I think he's 14 or 15-year-old, in Kumasi, who was kept at the Kumasi Central Prisons 5 months after a court of competent jurisdiction, a circuit court, had discharged him, had acquitted and discharged him of any crime. And after the court had ruled that this guy should be acquitted and discharged, he was still kept in prison. And he's a juvenile. He was still kept in prison at the Kumasi Central Prison for 5 months. Why? Because the prison officer said an investigator a prosecutor also had brought warrants, for him to be kept there and all of that. 5 good months. So these are some of the ills with our justice delivery system that the Justice for All program, addresses, right? So read about all of that. This is on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. The stories are there. And on the back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper, it says, protect yourselves against mosquito bites to avoid dengue fever. The Ghana Health Service is urging the public to do that. So that's it for the Daily Graphic newspaper. Let's go on and take a look at the Chronicle newspaper. We'll begin with the Bible verse on the Chronicle. It says, when you make a vow to God, do not delay to fulfill it. How many of you out there have made a promise to God that, God, I promise I'm not going to do this again. If you do this for me, I'm praying for this thing. And if you do this for me, God, I'm also going to do this, or I'll never do this again. Yeah, those of you who make vows to God and do not fulfill it. Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 4 says, when you make a vow to God, do not delay to fulfill it. And that's our Bible verse on the Chronicle. The headlines. Baumia fulfills promise. Construction equipment for MMDAs arrive. Distribution starts soon. NDC to launch 2024 campaign in Tamale tomorrow. Kujo Opono Nkrumah to deliver 2024 Buzia Institute lecture. And I am committed to supporting Baumia to deepen the bond with traditional authorities. And guess who is saying this? This is the running mate to Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempe. He's the one who is saying this, right? And also on the front page of the Chronicle newspaper, VRA sensitizes residents on emergency preparedness plan. Yeah, that's what VRA is doing, because we know that VRA had already announced that there was going to be another spillage of the Akosombo Dam. So on the Chronicle newspaper, when you look at that story, it says that VRA has been going on to sensitize residents that this is what is about to happen and this is the emergency plan. The Volta River Authority has embarked on sensitization activities for residents in its operating area on its emergency preparedness plan. Now, the series of meetings are to allay fears of residents within the operation areas and ensure that in case of spillage, its negative effect will not be dire as if there was no plan. For the past 3 weeks, the VRA has been carrying out a series of community engagements aimed at having all 10 districts found south of the Akosombo Dam duly informed about its emergency preparedness. Now, the discussions have focused largely on the results of field studies to ascertain the current levels of wetness in these districts at present and what a precautionary discharge of the Akosombo Dam will present. Accordingly, the study, all water, if discharged with precaution, will stay in the banks of the river, but low-lying areas, wetlands, and structures constructed in the banks of the river will see minimal wetness. This is what VRA is saying. Now, these areas identified include the Ada East District in the Greater Accra region, the Keta District, the Anloga District, and the North, Central, and South Tong Districts in the Volta region. The manager for corporate communications and branding, Francis Aban, who used to be the host of this show, assured the people to remain calm, stating that the VRA had not decided to discharge water from the Akosombo Dam without precaution, right? And Mr. Aban explained that the VRA was being proactive with its public education, while the reservoir intake levels are monitored, and the levels, according to the VRA, are lower now than the levels at this same time last year. So that's what the VRA has been doing. That's what the VRA has been doing. And even the when you go to starfm.com.gh, there's a story there where the MC for the Lower Minyakrobo district, Simon Kweku Tete, has urged the traditional and community leaders to actively share the details of the VRA's emergency preparedness plans to ensure safety during this rainy season. And he made this call when he was addressing leaders of various groups and assemblies and electoral areas at the VRA's sensitization, which was held in Krobo Dumase in the eastern region. And of course, I've just told you, as the Chronicle is also reporting, that the meeting was part of VRA's annual community engagements and sensitization with stakeholders and communities within the authority's areas of operation on its emergency preparedness plan. So that's on pages 3 and 5 of the Chronicle newspaper. When you go on starfm.com.gh, you'll see that there as well. So you can take a look at it. And that's it for the Chronicle newspaper. Let's move on to the Daily Dispatch newspaper, which I have next. On the front page of the Daily Dispatch, you are a very honest man, and I have no doubt that you can do the work Bawumia has given to you. That is the Okriapehene to Napo. Yeah. Also, the Ghana Police Service, or the Ghana Police Intelligence Unit, is a key factor in law enforcement. So you can read about that in the Daily Dispatch newspaper. And GOIL wins Oil Company of the Year 2024. Our very own Ghana Oil, GOIL, has won the Oil Company of the Year 2024. So you can read all about that on the Daily Dispatch newspaper. On the Daily Guide, the Daily Guide's tagline says it's Ghana's favorite newspaper. So for today's Daily Guide, Speaker hosts Ivorian counterpart. So the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagman, is seen in a picture on the front page of the Daily Guide in a handshake with Adama Bictogo from Ivory Coast. Also on the front page of the Daily Guide, Herbert Krapper commissions largest rooftop solar project. That was also on the front page of the Daily Graphic. Nana fulfills University of Health and Allied Sciences promise. So phase 2 of that project in Ho has been completed, and reform SHS policies to enhance students' well-being. That's according to CRI. And 5,000 KIA to be trained. And guess who is saying this? This is the NEIP boss. That they are going to train 5,000 KIA. You find it on page 6 of the Daily Guide newspaper. Exactly what is being said here. It says that as part of efforts to move KIA or headquarters from the major streets of the country and empower them with skills to become their own bosses, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Entrepreneurship Innovation Program, NEIP, Kofi Ofosun Kansa, has stated that 5,000 KIA are expected to be trained and graduated from the KIA Empowerment Program by the end of the year. The program is an initiative of the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, aimed at equipping young women with the skills and resources needed to overcome poverty and become economically independent. Speaking at the graduation ceremony of the second cohort, where 600 young women successfully graduated from the program, Mr. Ofosun Kansa noted that the graduates were trained in 6 specialized areas, including soap making, detergent making, baking, beads and jewelry, decor, pedicure and manicure, makeup artistry, and all of that. So each graduate received a certificate and a starter pack to help them start their own business. So that's what the NEIP has been doing. So you find that in the Daily Guide newspaper. Let's go to the Ghanaian Observer newspaper. Bawumia will use common sense approach to transform lives. That's according to Gideon Boako. VRA allays fears over spillage. Mining sector's contribution to GDP hits 13 billion Ghana cedis. Akufo-Addo and Otumfuo to grace Kumasi High's 60th anniversary, and upon Nkrumah to deliver 2024 Buzia Institute lecture. So that's it for the Ghanaian Observer. Let's look at the Daily Statesman newspaper, which says Big Togo and Bagbing pledged to deepen parliamentary democracy in Africa. So the two speakers of their respective countries meeting each other. Also, no cause for alarm. VRA engages communities on emergency preparedness plan. Upon Nkrumah to deliver 2024 Buzia lecture. And Okuapim Hine, yes, offers support for Baumia Napo ticket. So that's the Daily Statesman newspaper. Let's go to the Daily Post. The Daily Post says, botched SNIT hotels deal. They run down the institutions, do sweetheart deals, and distribute among themselves. That's according to Sophia Akufo. So this story is in the Daily Post newspaper. I'll go to the page where the story is and we'll read what Chief Justice Sophia Akufo is saying. So, a former Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Sophia Akufo, has accused the management of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust of deliberately running down the hotels that it wanted to sell, just to reduce their value and in the end distribute it among themselves. This, she said, has been the story of many state entities in Ghana. She was commenting on the earlier justification that SNIT management gave to move or sell 60% stake in 4 hotels. So it is recalled that in the press briefing on Monday, July 8, the Director General of SNIT, Kofi Bosompim Osafo-Maafo, insisted that all the hotels put up for sale had recorded consistent losses. According to him, the majority of the hotels were not paying dividends and selling them was the only option to revive the hotels. But of course, after a very serious backlash to government, because the sale of these SNIT hotels were going to Rock City, which is owned by the minister responsible for Agric, Brian Champong, who we know is one of the big men in the NPP. So his hotel was buying 60% stake in these hotels. Later on, it was found out that not all the hotels were not making profit, because the Labadi Beach Hotel, we understand, was very profitable and posting profit to government. And also, after all of that, we know what organized labor decided that they were going to do. Organized labor had given many, many indications that, hey, don't sell these hotels. Don't sell the 60% stake in these hotels. But the government said, oh, we are going to go ahead and sell it. In fact, SNIT said, we are going to go ahead and sell it. We need to sell it. And then the NPRA, we thought that the deal was not going through. And then the NPRA, issued a statement or a directive. The Minister for Employment and Labor Relations came to Parliament and said that, according to what the NPRA has said, the green light has been given. And then organized labor got very angry and decided that enough is enough. We are the ones who are contributing to SNIT. Every month, our monies is what contributes to SNIT. And we expect SNIT to use our monies wisely. So these assets that SNIT has, the hotels and whatever, it belongs to us because we are workers and we contribute to SNIT. So we are telling you, stop the sale of these hotels. No, the board and management of SNIT said, no, we are still going to sell it, and we'll sell it to Brian Champong and Rock City. So organized labor said, okay, then we are going on strike. In fact, we have announced our strike. All of organized labor, so from the nurses and midwives, from the doctors, from the teachers, from, everybody who is a part of the coalition, even the judicial service staff and everybody, organized labor came together and said, see, if you want to go ahead and sell these hotels, we are going on strike. We are laying down our tools. And then SNIT had to backtrack. Then we saw Rock City say they are pulling out of the deal. They are not interested in buying the 60% again. And then later on, SNIT came out and said that, hey, we've stopped selling these hotels. And that was a good thing that a lot of people commended organized labor for. Because we cannot allow things like this to happen in this country. This smacks of conflict of interest. And me personally, it was lost on me how anybody thought that this was a good deal. Like selling state assets like this, or should I say SNIT assets like this to someone who is heavily involved in government, a minister of state's company. I mean, it didn't really sit well with me. And it didn't sit well with a lot of people. And I don't understand why the board of SNIT was so insistent. Well, Organized Labour has also called for the dissolving of the board of SNIT, by the way. We are here to see if that is going to happen. So, Madame Sophia Kufu, who is the former Chief Justice of this country, spoke on TV3, I believe, as the Daily Post is reporting. And she told TV3 that SNIT will justify, of course, SNIT will justify it because they have run down the hotels. And just like in the public sector, a lot of public properties have been run down just so that the value will be run down always at the end of some cycle. Then they do sweetheart deals and do this distribution among themselves. So, quoting Sophia Kufu, he says, SNIT can say, I have defamed them, but I don't care. And she further commended labor unions for fiercely opposing the sale of the hotels to the Agric Minister, Brian Champong. And she said, God bless our unions. Yeah. And she said that the botched deal really irked her. She was very annoyed about it because the conflict of interest is conflict of interest. And this is the former Chief Justice, former Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. An astute professional in her day when she was a lawyer, going to the bench, rising through the ranks and becoming Chief Justice, Sophia Kufu. And she says, can't you see that there is clear conflict of interest? She says conflict of interest is conflict of interest. You can't be the judge and the jury, and you can't be the lawyer and the judge, and you can't be the litigant after you have given your evidence and everything, and your lawyer has done his submission, and it is time to determine the outcome, and now you are going to sit among the jury, and you want to be part of that. And it is lost on me how SNIT didn't see that this was clear conflict of interest, and they were insisting that there's no conflict of interest, and they issued statement saying it went through competitive tendering and Rock City offered the best deal and all of that. Like how? It is still lost on me up till today. How SNIT doesn't see that there's something wrong with this, and all the people who are defending this deal. Anyway. So it's in the Daily Post newspaper. Daily Post newspaper, front page. Also, MPP embarks on dangerous roadmap in desperate attempt to avoid looming defeat in December. That is what the Daily Post is saying. I don't know what that is. Also, Baumia wants to debate Mahama to resurrect his dead political career. Adongo Jabs. Okay, so that's it for the Daily Post newspaper. Let's look at the Daily Searchlight. The Daily Searchlight says, Election 2024 debates, NPP MPs chase Mahama. That's there. And also, Mahama is the past, I am the future. That's according to Al-Haji, Dr. Mahmoud Bamia. So those are the stories on the front page of the Insight newspaper. Of the Daily Searchlight newspaper. I'm now coming to the Insight newspaper. On the Insight, it says, salute for Professor Francis Nkrumah. Salute for Professor Francis Nkrumah. So, Emeritus Professor Francis Nkrumah, the firstborn child of Sergeant for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah on Sunday, June 30, 2024, passed on at the age of 89. And until his untimely demise last month, Professor Nkrumah was the Professor Emeritus at the University of Ghana Medical School in Accra. In a tribute honoring the memory of the illustrious professor, the Noguchi Memorial Institute, where he served for decades, in a brief piece titled Emeritus Professor Francis Nkrumah, 1935 to 2024, A Lifetime of Inspiration and Positive Influence, traced his immense contribution and untiring efforts to the building of the Institute, often assuming a humble but principled position on issues at the research center. Professor Nkrumah was the director of the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research from 1990 to 1998, within which period he contributed in diverse ways to shape and bring reforms to the center. So this headline is eulogizing the late son of Ghana's first president, or Sergeant for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, in the person of Emeritus Professor Francis Nkrumah. So read about it on the Insight newspaper. Also on the Insight, stop the illegal land grab now. Coalition of La associations bears teeth at government over state capture. Lands are being sold left, right, center. State lands. And all parties have done it. All governments have done it. from the NDC to the MPP government, they've all been selling lands, state lands. And that is not a very good thing. And so we need to take a look at it as a country. And Sebolo Kujetua Blackwell has been on a crusade about the sale of state lands. And he believes that it must stop. And a lot of Ghanaians will agree with him. Also on the Inside newspaper, Chief Director of the Ministry of Defense accused of evading court bailiff summons. High Court orders Lands Commission to delete all Odainto family entries, titles in public records, and also Apostle, is it Agba Lenyo, speaks on Supreme Court ruling on LGBTQI. We know that the Supreme Court very recently gave a ruling because someone had gone to court on the law in the criminal code 1960 saying that unnatural carnal knowledge is unconstitutional or is inconsistent with the Constitution. But the Supreme Court recently ruled that unnatural carnal knowledge in the Criminal and Other Offences Act is lawful. So it stays in there. Finally, I've got the Herald newspaper. It says NDC launches national campaign in Tamale tomorrow. Justice Sofa Akufu condemns SNIT's management, rightly so. Akufo-Addo's daughters, baby daddy got 34.9 million US dollars, $1 million state contract. I think it's talking about the ambulance maintenance contract that Semola Kujetua Blackwell has been talking about. MTN's monopoly data prices and matters arising. So very recently, there has been a conversation on social media, X, and then other social media platforms about the high cost of data in this country. And we've talked about it here on the morning side. I think we spoke about it on Monday or Tuesday. High cost of data. Data is expensive in Ghana. And telecommunications network MTN used to have moderate data packages. And let's face it, it seems as though MTN seemingly is the most reliable network in the country when it comes to internet data or internet connectivity. And a lot of people are using it. But the NCA, the Ministry of Communications and all of that, decided that MTN is a significant market player or power, which means that they have a large market share, which means they are at an advantage. And their position as a large market player potentially could make them a monopoly. So in order to curb that and help the other telcos, the Airtel Tigo, which belongs to government, the Vodafone or Telecells and whatever, the government decided that MTN cannot have the lowest prices of internet data anymore. So they are going to force MTN to increase the cost of their data packages so that it will deter a lot of people from staying with MTN so that the other networks can benefit. This is essentially what the government decided to do. And it has got a lot of people livid and angry on social media that, data is very expensive in this country, and the small data that we are buying now, you're also making it difficult because you say MTN is a significant market power. And it is not like even with the other networks, data is inexpensive. With the other networks, data is still expensive. And they will not even give us reliable data or reliable internet connection. So it's been reported on the Herald newspaper. Let me try and get to the part of the Herald newspaper which is saying this. So it says that over the past week or two, there has been heightened agitations on social media in Ghana over mobile data prices. The immediate trigger of this debate was a report from cable.co.uk, which indicated that out of 237 countries studied, an average mobile internet prices in Ghana were the 33rd lowest in the world, and in Africa has the third lowest price of 0.4 per 1 gigabyte. So in effect, and this is something that the NCA said, the NCA issued a statement because the NCA was tagged in a lot of the conversations on social media. The NCA issued a statement and said that Ghana has the second lowest prices in West Africa. And this is not political propaganda. This is something which is actually happening. But a lot of people on social media still believe that no. This is not. This is not good. The majority of commentators on social media simply do not believe in the report because prior to that, there have been agitations against repeated mobile internet price increase, particularly on MTN Ghana, which has the biggest number of customers in Ghana. And the irony of this is that these price increases is that it's happening at a time where the quality of service has become painfully poor across the board. So those conversations have been going on, and it's a fight that people on social media have been fighting. So that's the last headline on the Herald newspaper. Okay, there's another headline here. Let me just quickly go through. It says, Nungwa Stool accuses president's bodyguard of abuse of power, uses soldiers and police to destroy properties and all of that. So you can read it on the Herald newspaper. So this should do it for the newspaper headlines this morning here on the Boarding Star. Reminding you that you're still tuned into the Boarding Star here on Starr 103.5 FM, also live on Empire 102.7 FM in Takoradi. When we return, there's still a whole lot more to come up here on the show. Mutalinus, I believe, will be joining us in the studio for court today. We'll bring you a playback of the interview between Ibrahim Al Hassan and BT Baba, and then we'll get to our weekly